think since I was a little kid, I was always infatuated with death, and that was because of my uncle Dwayne, brain cancer. I believe by the time I got there, or I was born, he was in his late 20s, early 30s, but I believe he got diagnosed with brain cancer when he was like 21 years old, and they told him he had like 30 days to live at that. So by then, him every day he was alive up to that. It was just a miracle. And for him to stand at my father's wedding to my mom, she was pregnant with me when she got married, but that was a miracle. And for him just to see me grow up as long as he did, that was a miracle. But there was always looming, um, this looming thing of death. We always knew that because of the brain tumor. He was the most loving man in the world, but we always knew that any day we could wake up, he could die. It wasn't shoved down our throat, but it wasn't hidden from us. And when I say us, I mean my cousins, the kids, the team, me and my brother, my cousin Danisha, and my cousin LJ and Lauren, who is my Aunt Carol's kids, which is my dad's sister. There's three of them. I was always aware of death, and I always, since I can remember, knew or felt or always thought I was dying. I was very much a dramatic child. That's why growing to have such appreciation for Lauren, not Lauren, Lala, I was very much a dramatic child. But I always thought about death, and I always thought that how I was going to die. And it wasn't a fear of death. It was more of a curiosity about the pain of death and how it all worked and how people handled it and how was I going to handle it and how would people feel if I died? Did I impact their life? And mind you, I'm talking about a little girl. I'm talking about maybe starting at the age of 9 or 10. That's how much I thought about death. And then my mom's father, he passed away. My grandfather, Bernard. Now, mind you, he passes away in the house because he stayed home at my grandmother's house, and he had he had lung cancer, and he smoked. He smoked almost a pack of cigarettes a day with the oxygen tank and the thing around his nose, and he would sit there and smoke. And when I sit back here now, I can laugh because it's like the house could have blew up. Like, why are you smoking without? I mean, and people were bored him because at that time it's not like he could walk to the store, but he had a Milky Way, which is crazy because I love Milky Ways. I haven't Milky Way in a long time, but he'd have a Milky Way, and he had his cigarettes and his music and his movies, and that was my grandfather. Grandmother went upstairs first to check on him. I think she was taking him his lunch, and she came downstairs, and her face was just so, you know. By then, they had been together for, I don't even have years, but decades, and her face just looked so, like, drained. And one thing I can say about myself, if I give myself credit, I do believe I'm an old soul. I always could communicate with adults in a way where they never shooed me away or told me to go sit down and stay in a child's place. That never happened with me. And I don't know if that's because God knew I couldn't handle being taught like a child, even though my whole therapist sessions now is how I didn't have a childhood. But I really never gave people a chance to treat me like a child because I always presented myself as an adult, or what I thought an adult would be. So when she came down the steps, man, her face looked, and I just remember going, "What's wrong?" And she said, "Go upstairs and check on your grandfather." And I know people will judge if you listen to this, but it was almost like I just need to know that this is real. And I was the only one in the house, and I believe she trusts me. She trusts me. So I went, and I remember saying, "Grandpa, Grandpa," and shaking him. And I wasn't scared. It wasn't, if I think about it, it wasn't like that, oh, my first experience with death. It was almost like it's finally here. Because mind you, I believe my uncle was still alive when Grandpa died. So it was like, this is death. It's finally here. Death is here. Death is in this room. death is here. And not to lie, I very much respected my grandfather now, more now than then, but I wasn't like his biggest fan due to the fact that my grandfather was very loud, and Terrence had a connection with Grandpa. I never really had that, so it wasn't the end of the world for me. But this is it. I am in death. Death is happening. So uh, I went downstairs and I told Grandma he's gone, and I just remember acting, just getting into to mode, like, okay, we have to do this, we have to do that. And it's so crazy because the two adults, was my Aunt Bobby finally came home, and I just remember Aunt Bobby just sitting on the porch crying, and Grandma just she just sat there, and it was just like the life, her life. It all makes sense. Her life. She had based her whole life around being a wife and being a mother, and part of it was gone. It was gone. So touching now. So touching. I remember, calling the police. Everybody was looking for my mom, who was Tracy, but I think she was on a date with somebody. She was gone. I remember calling Aunt Kearney, which is their sister. My mom and dad have a lot of brothers and sisters. One day I'll go down the line and explain who's who and show pictures and get more into it. But my Aunt Karen, and I remember having, as a child, I don't know what year it is. I'll try to look up the year. I'm going to say maybe 10 or 11, calling her and letting her know that her father died and handling it in a way. And once again, I remember her yelling, like, and I'm not saying this as if these people scarred me. I'm saying it as these people trusted me enough to listen to a child and break in front of them. It is really hard to break and not be an adult in front of kids. That's not, especially back then, because, back then, a child stayed in a child's place. Now everybody's like, oh, you can't have gluten, no, they can't fall, I think somebody on Facebook said trolls was too serious because they ate the kids, and their kids are so, like, kids are so sensitive now. I mean, I do it too, but we pamper the heck out of the kids. We didn't have our own, kids got their own iPads and pods now. We didn't do all that, I just remember watching MASH and Star Trek. Whatever was on the TV was on the TV when the adults were home. And now it's like you come in the house and the kids come in the house and it's like, here's the remote. But it's such an honor now, thinking back and talking about these experiences. These people trusted me enough to break in front of me and not. It's very humbling. I respect them so much for trusting that they could collapse, even though she didn't collapse into me, but collapse around me, and I would be strong enough to stand there and not fall apart. It wasn't no, come here, baby, Pop-Pop's gonna be okay. It was none of that. And they didn't have to. They trusted me. I didn't need that. They could have done it, but I didn't need that. My thing was, death is here. What do we do? How is this all going to play out, And, yeah, then everything started happening. People start coming, in black cultures. All of a sudden, everybody starts showing up with hams and turkeys and just chicken, and it just becomes a thing. And I just remember just sitting on the steps, looking at my grandmother, and I had never seen my grandmother ask you. She was never a smiley person. She didn't really like to smile. She never liked to take pictures. But I just remember seeing her face being just so washed out, even more. We're pale, but even more. And a part of her spirit just kind of left a little bit, And the reason I said that is because this morning I woke up and my hair, there's a lot of hair. I don't know if I have it. Actually, when my hair is straight, my hair definitely sheds more in its natural state. I mean, even though this is natural because I have a perm, but my hair definitely sheds more when it's curly. When it's straight, it usually doesn't shed. And also, it sheds more in the winter, not the summer. So I've been noticing it shedding really bad. But when I woke up on the pillow just to see all this hair, I just went, J-Ro, look at this. And I was like, that's not right? And he's like, no, we're going to go see your primary care doctor. And so with this new season I'm in my life, I've realized that these feelings started to come up. These feelings started to come up. And immediately, because of my personality and just the way I am sometimes, like I said, and I go to the negative, I thought, this is it. This is, I got this sickness, you want to Google it. You want to say that you got, cancer. This is hair loss. And then also the back of my head has been hurting. So, you automatically go to the negative. But because I am more aware now of myself, it was almost like listening to myself, but a part of me was sitting back, watching myself react. I could hear myself, but then I also was sitting back going, why are you going to the negative? Why is this a whole story now? Why are you automatically planning your funeral and deciding who's going to take care of the kids? So I went from that to, it's always been like that, and that's why I'm kind of sharing you your story. You've always worried and always went to the negative and always thought about death and how you were going to die and who's going to do what with what. Always had an extreme imagination, and that's definitely being raised with older people. Because when my mom and dad broke up when I was like around 4, so I went to live with my grandmother and my grandfather. Even then, my grandmother had to be in like her 60s or so then. And like I said, it wasn't no how's the kid's emotional being thing. That was not the decade of that. That was just, you know, watching the kids was just making sure that they ate and that they didn't kill themselves. Always very much use my imagination to create the world I wanted to live in, and not the world that I did live in. So that's something. I always had a great imagination too. I was very much, and I definitely get it from my Aunt Bobby, but all my family members, my Aunt Bobby was the one who claimed it. Very emotional. I felt things. Like I couldn't watch certain movies because I remember reading the Diary of Anne Frank, and you could not tell me for 2 weeks that I was not stuck in a closet. And I'm not laughing, but I felt things. And, my mom and my brother would get so mad at me because I couldn't watch certain movies, but it's not that I didn't want to watch them. It's due to the fact that I felt it. My empathy for things are just so high. It's not just I hear you, but I feel your pain and I receive it through my whole body. And I've always just been very, my brain just always, like I said, hair falling out, headache, she's got cancer, who's going to take care of the kids, I'm not going to see my kids grow up. And I'm talking about in a matter of seconds, all of these flood of thoughts. And thoughts are just so fascinating to me, fled past. And I didn't fight them. I didn't beat myself up for having the thoughts. I more just sat back and just watched the thoughts unfold. And then I went on to think like, because of course the situation always comes to, for me, is you did something wrong. You didn't take something. You did something wrong. And I'm like, you didn't do anything wrong. There's some people, who get sick, and then there's some people who do drugs for 30 years and they're fine. Like, and then there's some people who get sick and then they live for 30 more years. Like, it's not like that. The thing that brought me to tears, when I was crying before I picked up this phone, is not the fact that I'm dramatic, or not the fact that I'm, scared to die, or not the fact of leaving my kids. The fact that came over me is that God loves me. Just neurotic, dramatic, complex, imagination-driven me, moment to moment, hour by hour, constantly roller coaster me. I've been really trying to become a better me, and that's great. I do believe you should always evolve and become a better you, but it hit me, even if I never become spiritually enlightened, or even if these lists that I make every day don't get completed, even if I don't get the Mother of the Year award, or Girlfriend of the Year award, or Sister of the Year award, He loves me. He created me. He probably gets a tickle, a good laugh out of me. I tickle Him because he knows that he created this being who, yesterday when she was trying to meditate, spent the whole time thinking about how this would make her closer to God, and now he would really like her. What the hell? What are you talking about? The reason that you're meditating is because you're trying to be your better self so you can be closer to God, like those people seem that you watch on Oprah's Next Chapter. Like, shut up. Constantly trying to get brownie points in life to kind of show that you're not this crazy person, that you really can't even enjoy the art of meditation because you're just thinking like, what's the best position I could sit in? What's the deepest I could go to show God that I'm spiritually in line with the universe? And even with all that, he loves me. He cares about me. He's concerned. And I believe this morning, all of these thoughts and all the seeds and all these things that have happened over these last couple of weeks were just to show that even if I never become what I think or what I imagine God wants me to be, me being me is enough for him. And then what drives the floodgates open is that he took the time to create 4 more people to love me also. Jero, moment to moment, hour to hour, whatever feeling or concern, or I like to call them altars, steps up at that moment, he rides the wave and he respects it and he loves it. My babies, they don't care if I have a Harvard degree or mop a floor in McDonald's. I'm their mom and they love me. It hurts because it's so good. I thought it's so good it hurts. For 4 people, I don't have to be anything other, and it's more. It's more people. I do have more people in my life that genuinely love me, but it's 4 people that I can come to the table, including God, my flawed, genuine self, and they look at me and they see a masterpiece, and I'm puzzled why they see it. The gratefulness that they see it is unreal. Beat myself up anymore, because there's no reason to. There's just no reason. You know, the people who matter, the entity that matters, has already approved of me. And now I have to just learn how to approve of myself. So if I'm having a bad day, I'm having a bad day. Tomorrow will be a better day. If I feel myself starting to take a turn where I'm thinking negative thoughts, I'll try to bring myself back. But this pressure that I have been putting on myself to live up to this expectation that no one asked me to, I feel no need to do it any longer. So he created me the way I am, to think the way I am, to break things down the way I am, to appreciate things for the way that they are, to misappreciate, to misinterpret. Now, none of these things are not saying that I'm not supposed to grow and be better and be, I surrender. That's the word. I surrender to him fully who I am, so he can remodel me in the way that he would like me to be. But I can't spend another moment, second, bashing or belittling or hurting something that he took so much time and care to create so I can create. My thought patterns and the way I come to conclusions is my creativity. So, something to think about.